Hello and welcome. Today's tutorial is on how to change the opacity of things on your web page. Once you have created your web page and the layout is to your liking, you can do simple things to make it look more professional. First, you want to open your HTML and CSS pages in a text editing program. I'm using Text Wrangler. Then open your web page onto any browser so that you can easily go back and forth between the two to make sure everything that you're doing looks good. I'm going to use two different methods to change the opacity of my header and my content divs. You can use these same techniques on images as well. For my header div, I'm going to use the CSS property Opacity, which makes everything in that div more transparent, including text. And for my content div, I'm going to use an RGBA color code, which stands for red, green, blue, alpha. And that only affects the opacity or transparency of the color itself. In other words, the text stays opaque while the background of the div changes in opacity. First, you want to set the background color for your div by using the CSS property background-color and then inputting that color. For my header div, I have already picked a color that I want for my background, but you can use whatever color you like. I'm using #FFCC99, which is a soft shade of orange. Then refresh your web page to see the color. Now you want to add the opacity property to your header div. This property ranges from 0 to 1. I'm going to set my opacity to 0.6. You can test out different numbers until you find the one you like. Let's see how that looks. Notice how my text also became transparent. Depending on your web page, this might not be ideal, which is why you may want to use the RGBA hex colors to have this effect without making your text hard to read. To do that, you want to find a color you like. I like the light gray color I have, so I'm just going to copy and paste the code into Google to find the hex code. If you haven't picked out a color yet, you can just Google HTML color codes, and the hex code is normally provided also. Notice it gives you both RGB color code as well as the hex color code. Now that I've found my hex color code for the color, I'm going to copy and paste it into my CSS file under Content with the background color property. But first, I'm going to add the letters RGBA and then parentheses, the color code, plus the alpha, close parentheses. Now all you have to do is set the alpha number, which can range from 0 to 1, depending on how transparent or opaque you want the color to be. In my case, I'm going to set my alpha to 0.8 because I don't want it to be very transparent. Save your CSS and refresh your browser. If the alpha number you set is too high or too low, play around with it until it is to your liking. And you're done! Now you've made your web page look professional with a simple property. Thanks for learning!